Typical. What kind of friggin' horrors are we going to find in here? Yuck. So I guess I better make a video on this thing. This is where we're currently at with the Barra Fairlane. So far, if you get into it and you did not know it was converted, you would not have a clue. I have gotten all the ancillaries working. Inside the car, it pretty much works exactly how it was before I changed it. Okay, first of all, you want to fuck off that AC bracket I made and actually use the proper BA compressor. Because I had troubles with my bracket, it kept bending and chewing the belts out. So I had these custom AC lines. Hang on, let me just... Okay. So you actually want to fuck that thing off. So I had 2 custom AC lines made up. So this one goes from the Barra pump all the way down to the AU condenser. This one comes from the suction side, goes all the way up to the AU receiver dryer. You can just see it there. The sunlight makes it a bit hard, but that is the AU receiver dryer. This line cost me 160 bucks. The ECU is still not secured. The wiring is still a rat's nest. Half of it goes to the auto ECU, or the auto transmission down there. Fuck off, you're noisy. Really, what I had to wire up to get everything working inside the car. First of all, that goes to the AU ECU, that measures coolant temperature, so I have thermofans and the gauge. The stock temperature sensor in the back of the cylinder head goes to the ECU, so I still have the limp home function if it decides to overheat. Next thing, oil pressure. I just wired up the standard VCT oil pressure switch regulator, whatever you want to call it, from the old VCT engine. That gives me my oil pressure readout for the stock gauge. This ECU does not know what the oil pressure is. However, you will need to wire in the oil temperature sensor, otherwise the VCT won't work. Tachometer. So you've got the crank sensor, I guess. That is spliced. The signal wire is the only one that's spliced and goes back to the AU ECU. Every time I do both, it tends to go into limp home mode. That's the only fix I've managed to get it to work. If you're going to run the AU gearbox, you're going to need a throttle, a TPS signal. That's what this wire is. It goes from whatever that color is, yellow with a white stripe, that goes into the factory AU TPS wiring, and that lets the gearbox kick down and stuff. I do not like that. I want to redo that. It is really sketchy. Sometimes it just fails for no reason and the gearbox thinks it's wide open all the time. Engine mounts will normally fit. These are off a Series 1 car. Series 2 might not fit. It only just barely clears the bonnet, as you can see right here and right here. It tends to rub right here and right there. You'll also notice there might be rubbing where the airbox goes into the throttle body. If it is not perfectly secured to the engine, it will rub. The exhaust manifold is basically a stock BA onto an AU catalytic converter. It tends to pull the exhaust system back about 1 inch, so be warned about that. Your muffler may hit the body of the car. Oxygen sensor goes into the BA ECU. Right now it's sort of just wired in there haphazardly. I do have the oxygen sensor signal running to the ECU. I've actually piggybacked that off the old gas system, which I still need to remove. Power steering, I just blocked that sensor, and that sensor down there that used to live in the rack, that is just bridged for freaking whatever reason, doesn't really matter. You can keep the sensor if you want. I didn't, to simplify my already messy wiring. This is a BA power, high pressure power steering line that goes directly into the rack with a little bit of bending. That will directly fit. Transmission cooler got an upgrade. I had that shitty little one bolted to it, and now it's got a big PWR one. Fan I did nothing with. Radiator I did nothing with. That's all pretty much stock standard. Gearbox bolted up just fine. Mind the friggin' huge mess here. But yeah, that is about it really. If you're going to do this conversion for the very first time, I would recommend buying a complete BA series or BA or BF car and converting it into something that would be around the same of what you're going to plot. Say, if I wanted to do this again, I would convert it into just a regular Falcon first, because there's a lot of things, a lot of niggly things that you don't really necessarily think of when you do it first go. Okay, other things I've done to this car. Brakes. These things had really shitty brakes on them, and if you've got an early Falcon, I would highly recommend putting AU2 friggin' hubs, lower control arms and everything on them. These are currently two 98mm rotors off a BA Falcon with BA Falcon calipers. I do plan to go with a turbo brake setup. You will need the disc and you'll need a new caliper bracket, as well as some new pads, which is always handy. You don't necessarily need pads, but it's a good idea to get new ones. They will bolt just on, they'll bolt fine up to BA, BF, and I believe FG, but do not quote me on that. But yeah, if you're going to do this type of conversion, I would highly recommend upgrading your brakes. I've also completely rebuilt the front end suspension, minus that ball joint right there. I'm still having trouble sourcing one that I like. Lower control arms are done, friggin' hub bearing is done, brakes are done, rack ends and tie rods have been done. Pretty much the entire front end of the suspension on this car has been rebuilt. Okay, we come to the back brakes. I've swapped the entire IRS cradle with a low kilometer one. It costs approximately $1,300 to get all the bushings done on the IRS cradle, not including labor. The rear brakes. This brake setup is off a 2005 SX Territory. Calipers and rotors will bolt directly on it, and the factory handbrake will work if you're using new discs. Be warned, you might need to get the rear of the rotor machine down 1.5mm exactly, otherwise it will rub against the caliper bracket. Or you can do what I have done and space the caliper back 1.8mm. That is what that is the closest I could get it with the materials I had on hand. This is a very good upgrade because the rotors are in fact vented, not solid like some people believe, and they are slightly bigger. Be warned, if you're running 16-inch rims, you'll need to upgrade to 17 inches because a 17-inch rim is the minimum that this brake system will allow. Apart from that, it's very stock. It's got a 345 open center rear differential. There's nothing too exciting under here. It is running stock springs, stock shocks, and brand new hub bearings, which was a pain in the ass to find and actually press in. How fast is this car doing 0 to 100? Well, we've got a straight bit of road. There is no one coming behind us. Let's find out. Please note that this road is slightly declined. It is going downhill, but we're in drive. Economy is off. And let's see. Let's go, boys.